We've got a number of people out there. We failed to send out a reminder like we should have. It was late. It was late yesterday after 5, but we want to welcome everybody. And please, if you have some questions as we're discussing things, if you would please type them in on the chat so we can answer the questions as we go along, and let everybody know about that. At 9 o'clock, hopefully, Derek Miller will be here from the World Trade Center and talk about an initiative that we'd like to do with the exporting. We'll talk more about that. We're also going to discuss email that I sent out a while ago on the new markets tax credits, and that is something coming up. So, but let's begin talking about the BEAR program. All of you should have received the contracts by now, and many of you have returned those, and we appreciate that. Those who haven't, if there's a problem, please get with Dan or I so that we can discuss it with you. Yes, we know that some of them are not what you originally requested. In fact, many of you will have more visits than what you originally requested in the contract, but some of you will also be missing other kinds of funding possibilities or funding projects that you are asking for. The BEAR program is a business outreach, and it is focused toward visits and action items. And for the last couple of years, it had gotten a little out of kilter, and we need to bring it back and focus on the business visits and getting that done. We encourage and urge you to hire somebody and not necessarily have the economic development professional do that yourself necessarily. Get some people that are willing, that have business experience and want to earn some money, and then subcontract with them to actually do the business visits, and train them to look for the red flags, use the system to bring the resources to the individuals, or the individual business. Okay, make sure that we're processing the BEAR visits. We have a visual representation here. I can get that. This is, why we're going out. Is BEAR makes these visits make the connection between all of the resources and the various stages of businesses in your area. And this is a focal point and a tool that we can use to grow the local businesses. The funding at about $100 per visit is more than enough to handle and pay for the outreach visits and subsequent visits to the business as needed. So this funding can then be used as the visits are done to help fund training and other local projects and other local efforts to increase the business opportunities in your area. And that's really a brief, broad outline of the BEAR program. On your outreach specialists, there are 3 basic things that you need to make sure they understand. The outreach specialist talk to your outreach specialist, and there are 2 surveys. There's a retention survey, and then there's a startup survey. If the business is just starting out, it asks a series, it's shorter than the retention survey, and it asks a series of questions excuse me, that startup businesses want and need to know about and should consider as they're beginning their business. On the retention survey, take and copy the previous survey and then update the information. And the reason why you do this is so that you start establishing a potential trend, because the system can then look at the various businesses or the various surveys that were done with each individual business and start tracking the data points with that business or the other businesses. You can do it business specific, or you can do it on a macro with all the businesses. But when you have multiple visits in there, then it starts allowing you to watch for trends and what's happening, and things that help indicate trends, needs, specific needs that your area businesses needs. That helps direct your training efforts. The other areas that should be discussed, and it helps direct what you're going to. It is difficult, frankly, to talk and not have the feedback from you. And it looks like we are maxed out on the number of attendees. We are recording the this discussion, and so we'll post that on our website, so that if other people would like to view it, that they can do so. Okay.
You're doing a great job, Glenn.
The retention visits. Follow that up. Copy it over. And how often you make a visit to a company is your call. It's important to maintain the quality of the visit, that you're just not running up charges to the state for money, but that you actually deliver to the business something that's worth their time. And that's a critical and essential item to establish what the purpose of that visit is. Now, in the next few weeks, we'd like you to consider looking for businesses that would be possible candidates for this new market tax credit program that is coming the 1st of September. That is not available in all areas. That's why you need to look at the specific information and identify those businesses that may qualify. Then you do the bear visit, find out if there's an opportunity there. The next thing is we're looking for companies that are interested in exporting. Export, if they're producing a product, whatever it happens to be, that and they would be interested in having their hand held, as it were, to go through the process and look for potential international markets. Businesses that do that are seriously growing our local economy, the local pie. We're seriously making money, making that pie bigger. And that will benefit not only that specific business, but it will benefit ultimately the entire area. So, and there aren't going to be a lot of businesses in every area, but a few, 1 or 2, 3 or 4 in your area that could be interested. That's what, again, the bear visit is for, to identify those potential companies and look out at this, look for this opportunity. Oh dear. Okay. Again, after you've done a visit, you want to look for an action item and make that connection with that company. Look for ways, the outreach specialists look for ways so that that company can be helped in some way. The company will tell you what that is. If we're listening right, we will be able to identify what those methods are. On average, we should, and we're looking for at least one action item on average with every visit. Now, there are many areas that are doing far above that. And when the visits are and the discussion with the company is being held, and the outreach specialist is trained to look for those red flags and to ask questions, leading questions that are provide an opening for the business to say, oh, I could use that. That would be helpful. That's where those action items come to play. And again, not every business is going to have an action item, but it's not unusual for a business to have more than one action item. Then, after you have an action item and are working that, place and do a record of what you're doing. The outreach specialist develops the action item, and then the various resources fill in how they're helping that company. After that action item is generated and the need is met, then we do the matrix survey and attach that to the action item or attach it to the company. That's where the results are measured and accumulated for how well this the impact of these visits are with the business. That's where we show other state parties, the legislature and the governor and everybody else, why this program works and how this program is important is in this metrics survey, so that that information is gathered and accumulated. Now, there's some discussion, and I will send out in the next day or so potential suggestions as to what the various metrics mean. There's three, for example, there's three job categories: new hires, placed, and then retained. Typically, the new hires is frankly just that, a new hire. The placed employees typically are when an outside agency such as DWS or an SOS type of company helps get a new employee, both full and part-time. And then the jobs retained are just that. Because of the visit, because of a fast-track grant, because of training, jobs are retained. And all of these have full or part-time. Right under that is payroll increase. Well, if you hire somebody, if there's a new job hire, obviously the payroll is going to increase. That's basically an annual amount. So if you hire somebody, they're being paid $12 an hour, then that means the business, that business has increased their payroll on an annual basis of whatever the arithmetic is. Anyway, we'll go through those details and help suggest a standard, if you will, or suggested categories, what those various categories mean, so that it's uniform throughout the state, if that would be useful for you. The stuff that I'm going over here, I've had 3 training sessions with different areas, and these are the kinds of questions and the process that was useful to those different areas as in those training programs. If anybody wants a training program, if there's any specific discussion, please let me know, and I'm happy to help in doing this. I know that Duchesne County is having their outreach specialist go over to Price and go through the process, and Price is happy to help Duchesne County get the training and bring that up to date and doing that. I think that kind of attitude is found in all of the areas that are doing these surveys. One other thing, and then I'll try to move quickly along here. As things are happening with the various businesses, if you could, on a monthly basis or whenever something occurs because of the bear survey, because of the bear outreach, if you could send a note to me of these warm and fuzzy stories, as it were, that is helpful in providing information. All of a sudden I'll get a request, tell us what's happening in rural Utah. The governor wants to talk, and he wants to address or highlight certain companies, that kind of information. If you can send me those stories, those success stories from your areas, again, as they happen, then I'm accumulating them so that they become a resource, a potential resource to us for those kinds of needs. Okay, I better get back into where I need to be. There we are. Let's see. Oh, we've got some questions here while I was offline. Yes, I will email this whole thing. Again, it'll be available on our website, And the connections, yeah, Dan's already replied to that. The tax credits, there are some, I'll show you some websites that will be helpful on the new market tax credits. And we're going to discuss that in just a moment. Okay, again, moving along. Get this highlighted here. Again, there's the bear. And I'm trying to think, I think it was Kevin Christensen in Sanpete County that originally suggested that we do this, make this kind of a thing. I don't know, doesn't matter. Okay, new markets tax credits. This is a potential funding source for businesses in specific areas, specific census tracts. There's a $4 million maximum. Utah has added, with this last legislature, some Utah incentives to generate these funds. I will email a broader web or PDF that spells out and goes over some of the history and some of the details for it. I'm probably biased because of my banking background about this program. It is not going to be for everybody, but it does provide opportunity, lending opportunity, up and down the business spectrum for small businesses and large businesses in these specific areas. There's some acronyms that you would need to be aware of. The Community Development Entity or the Qualified Equity Investment. Those are the funding sources. Typically it's a finance, venture, not a venture capitalist, but a company that brings and sells these tax credits out. The essence or the effect of these tax credits are that new capital is generated to lend out to companies for their growth needs. And where these, and this is low interest and special financing for businesses located in the qualified active low-income communities. And this is businesses that are qualified active low-income businesses. And again, I'll send you out more of this PDF format to help you understand it a little bit. But it's an opportunity that will be relatively quick. They have to lend out or find these companies $34 million worth in the next year. This program begins the 1st of September. So that's why we're talking about it now, is so that you have opportunity to use the BEAR program to find companies that may be interested and to identify companies in these specific census tracts that may qualify. It takes a little work on our part to find those businesses that are interested. And then we can make the connection between the business and the funding source. This is a map of the qualifying census tracts. If you notice there, the darker green areas are those that qualify. Obviously, western Tooele County is that big space toward the top. Down at the bottom, San Juan County areas, and those different areas are available. In the center of the state, and it's impossible to see it, but when you go on the website, you can drill down to your area, and the map zooms in on these qualified census tracts. You can't see it here, but South Price City is one of the tracts. Sanpete County has a couple of tracts. Obviously, Western Tooele County, San Juan, etc. These are the number of tracts in the various areas. And in the rural counties, what we count as the rural counties, there are about 42 or 44 census tracts that qualify. I've highlighted those. Box Elder County, those guys are too rich up there. So Mitch, you're SOL. There's nothing in Box Elder County, but there are in the other counties, and you have to, again, go on the websites. Here are the websites that point out the maps and the information so that you can talk to your companies about it. Again, this opportunity is not going to be for everybody. It's not available to everybody, but it is some good money, low interest, and an opportunity for businesses to find, and the purpose of the program is to provide funding for businesses that may typically be disadvantaged because of their location and that type of problem. So this again will be available on the website, and you can find that information. Look at your website or your census tract map and identify those areas and the companies that okay, let me see, I've got a note here. What new state tax law to enhance the federal program? What they did is they added what the legislature did, and this was a bill sponsored by Valentine and Governor Herbert signed onto it. It's Senate Bill number 223. John Valentine and Representative Brad Wilson were the bill's sponsors. And what they did is added additional Utah tax credits that are then sold to potential sources of funding to produce the capital pool that is then lent out to the qualifying businesses. It'll be administered by GoEd here, and the company name of it is Advantage Capital, has been a primary source of the effort on this. There's approximately, all told, about $50 million that will be available. And again, they are providing tax credits to sources of funds that will be lent out, and the advantage to that is to get new companies that are available to that. Again, more information will be coming out on this program, but you need to look at it and identify those businesses that would be use potential list sources. All right, we are privileged to have Derek Miller, the President, CEO, and Chief Poobah of the World Trade Center. He's joining us here, and he has a few points that he would like to make. Let me find the correct screen. Where are you? Oh. There we go. All right. You're up.
Good morning, everyone. As Glenn mentioned, this is Derek Miller, World Trade Center, Utah. I'm grateful to have a few minutes to talk to you about what the World Trade Center does and what we plan to do as it relates to assisting all of your efforts in rural Utah for economic development. And my hope is to take just a few minutes to give you a brief overview, but really my main purpose in spending this time with you is to hear from you, because we are in the middle of a process of putting a plan together to do some outreach to rural Utah, and we want to make sure two things. Number one, that what we do is effective, and number two, that what we do is in coordination with each of you as particularly local economic development professionals in your respective areas. Let me start first just by talking about the World Trade Center Utah. Our mission statement is to help Utah companies think, act, and succeed globally. And we have four main areas where we accomplish, how we accomplish that mission statement. The first is in the area of motivate and educate Utah businesses to expand their global presence, and we do that primarily through seminars and forums. And in fact, we have a seminar going on right now as we speak on export documentation and standards that need to take place. So Utah companies that are interested in demystifying how to go international, that's how we help them do that. The second objective is that we build business capacity for international trade, and we do that through business-to-business, one-on-one consultation. So we'll work with Utah businesses based on their service or based on their product. We have proprietary databases where we can help them do market analysis and help them to figure out where in the world they could have the most success. And then third is that we expand Utah's global network, and we do that primarily through hosting diplomatic visitors in the state and helping to connect them to Utah, the Utah business community. And then the fourth one I mentioned, it's not on the slide that you see in front of you, but the fourth one area is supporting our partners. So like each of you, we can't be successful in our mission unless we rely on the partnerships that we have, and we've got partnerships both with the Governor's Office of Economic Development, that includes their international team as well as the rural team. We also have a partnership with the Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce. And one of the things that I'm doing in my new role at the World Trade Center Utah is getting around the state to meet with local chambers of commerce as well as local economic development directors. So if you haven't heard from me already, expect to hear from me soon. What I want to talk to you about mainly today is the rural approach that we hope to take in accomplishing our mission that I've outlined in rural Utah. Some of you will remember that Governor Herbert actually addressed this issue specifically in his most recent State of the State, where he highlighted a rural company from Bicknell that's in log furniture manufacturing. And in that, as he highlighted that rural business, the governor talked about the need to assist and support our rural companies to begin exporting their products overseas. And so the effort that I'm going to talk to you about is motivated by the challenge that the governor has given. And there's three parts of that, and they align, you'll see, very closely with the three objectives that I already gave you. Our plan is to be, and we're doing this, I should mention, in partnership with the Department of Workforce Services, as well as the support and the input from Glenn and his team. So with that partnership, our plan is to begin hosting quarterly regional international trade forums. And so we will identify 4 areas of the state each year where we can go and host these international trade forums. We expect that they'd be about a half-a-day forum. Attendance would be free, but we would need your help in identifying the companies who could benefit from this, and also in just generally speaking, getting the word out to the business community. The second prong is to develop online seminars. So the seminars that we have now are held here in Salt Lake City in the World Trade Center at City Creek. Obviously, it's difficult for rural companies to access those, and so we want to take a core segment of the seminars and make them available online, as well as provide on the third prong the business-to-business trade services that I mentioned to you. We'd like to have someone dedicated, at least in the short term, to rural businesses in doing that one-on-one consultation. So that's the outline of our strategy. And at this point, I'd love to just take any questions, comments, feedback. As I mentioned, we will rely heavily on the local economic development professionals, not just to help us get the word out about the program, but also to help us identify specifically companies who we can work with. And so can we just open it up to Lynn to comments and questions?
Yeah, let's see if there's any questions down here. That was going to be, that's on the new market tax credits, that question. As soon as we get more information back on the new market tax credits, how to apply and whatnot, we will get that out for you. But we're looking again for businesses that might be interested in it. At the same time, be looking for businesses that are producing something that would be interested in doing exporting and this type of thing. Are there any questions? Will Derek be visiting the rural areas? Derek?
If I'm lucky. The short answer is yes. And I'm going down to southern Utah tomorrow. We've got a number of meetings set up in southern Utah already, and at this point, you know, I recognize that this is in its infancy stage. So I'm not giving you a lot of details because all the details haven't been worked out. This is to accomplish 2 things. Number one, to get you thinking about it, so that when I contact you, we can have a productive discussion on what would be most effective in your neck of the woods.
If there's, and I'm speaking out of turn here, but if there is interest, if you have several companies that are interested and would like specific information, please let us know, and we'll try to accommodate those particular areas. I have another question. Do you have a list of employees that you are currently working, employers that you are currently working with at the World Trade?
We do, but I have to tell you that if not exclusively, very close to it, there are companies along the Wasatch Front, which is that's not by design, it's just by coincidence, which is the reason that we realized we needed to be more proactive in the rural outreach effort that we're beginning now. So if the question is based on a worry that maybe you'd be telling us about companies with whom we're already working, I can tell you that's not the case. We haven't done a good job in the past of connecting to rural Utah as it relates to exporting. So don't be worried that maybe we're duplicating efforts, because it's not happening.
And in fact, there was one company that in a rural area that was commented they are trying to do, and they had made some exporting sales internationally, And when I asked the World Trade Center, you know, are you working with this company? And they looked it up, and it, in fact, not the case. They hadn't been working with them. And so I wouldn't, again, I think you're looking for companies that make something that, whether it's in coal mining, filters, there's businesses throughout rural areas that are manufacturing in some small way some kind of a widget or other, and there is an international market for those kinds of things. And these guys have the assets to find potential international markets for that. Are there other questions? A number of companies are already making internet sales to foreign customers. How would this pertain to World Trade Center services?
So a lot of these, it's either going to be retail, if they're going over the internet, or so they're just retailing directly over the internet. A lot of small companies do that through eBay and other B2C forums, or they may be doing it business to business. And it's really the business to business where we can be helpful. So we recognize that a lot of these companies could already be doing the internet sales, but what they may be missing is the partnering that could go on directly on a B2B basis with people and companies that could then expand their markets. Secondly, they may be making an input into a final product. And again, helping on the B2B connections, that's what the World Trade Center can do. So it's not as much as the internet sales of B2C as it is the B2B.
Now, Derek, I was up to a pinning of foreign representatives a couple of months ago up at the Capitol. Tell them what that was about.
So the Governor's Office of Economic Development has hired 4 international trade representatives located in China, in Western Europe, in Mexico, and Israel. And Go Ahead has entered into a contract with these 4 foreign trade representatives for 2 purposes. One, for them to be able to identify international businesses that could expand to Utah, and then secondly, to help Utah companies make connections in those markets. And so when I talked about the trade services that the World Trade Center offers and then is able to make connections to people in those foreign markets, one of the ways that will be done is through these Go Ahead contractors.
He asks about a flyer. Let me get that. So you can read that. Oh, wrong direction. Is there a flyer or an information sheet from the World Trade Center?
Yes. And thanks for bringing up the BEAR program and SBDC, because that's exactly what we need to do, is to get the collateral material in your hands that you can start handing out to people. So we will work with Delin within a week to make sure that you have some piece of collateral that you can use to help share this information.
Okay. Let's see what this other question is. Do they have to be rural? We have both rural and not rural in our area.
Absolutely not. This is for any and all Utah companies. So what I'm talking about today, because this is the rural webinar, is the specific effort that we are going to engage to rural companies, but we want to help every company for sure. What we've just found is that most of the companies along the Wasatch Front are aware, familiar with the service we offer, but now we've got to work through each of you to get the word out to rural Utah as well.
And then Michelle asked, could you give each of us a list of those that you are already working with out in the rural areas? So we can check with them time to time to make sure that we are getting the service they need.
Yeah, I think that's a great suggestion, and the answer is yes, we ought to do that for sure. I think it serves a couple purposes. One, as I mentioned before, we don't want to duplicate efforts if we're already working with them. And then I appreciate the suggestion to make sure that all of you are in the loop as to which companies that we're working with, either currently or begin working with through this effort, so that you can, as you suggested, stay in tune with what they're doing and what additional help they need. So yes, we'll do that.
Again, this is a tremendous opportunity to make our rural pie bigger. This is money from outside the United States coming into us and growing our local economy. And it will surprise you, the businesses that actually have on their own tried to do this and what they've come up with. Any other questions that we can address? We will get the list of businesses. We'll get a flyer and get that sent out to you in the next week or so. We'll also follow up with the new market tax credit information and that, so that you can be prepared and look for those businesses in those qualifying census tracts and identify that. And as the application process, we'll bring you up to speed and keep you up to speed with that. But we're telling you about it now so that we can hit the ball running. There's been, in previous years, this is not new to Utah, there's been $190 million that's been invested in the new market tax credit program in Utah. But if you'll notice, it hasn't been in rural areas. And that's why we're making this effort to get our share of these kinds of funds. So we want to make that available. If there are no other questions for Derek, we'll go home and get to work, do something productive.
It's good to be with you, Delyn. Thanks for allowing me to spend this time. And just, I'm looking here at the list on the screen of a lot of names of people who I know and but I haven't seen in a long time. So I'm looking forward to getting back out on the road and connecting with each of you again. And I think there's great opportunity for us to help these Utah companies to get to these overseas markets. So I'm looking forward to working with each of you.
Okay, thanks everybody, and we will be in touch.